What is it we are questing for? It is the fulfillment of that which is potential in each of us. Questing for it is not an ego trip. It is an adventure to bring into fulfillment your gift to the world, which is yourself. There is nothing you can do that's more important than being fulfilled. You become a sign, you become a signal, transparent to transcendence. In this way, you will find, live, become a realization of your own personal myth.
Yes.
So, what does that mean?
This is, if you listen to this, right, it's the same thing as in The Alchemist, follow your personal legend, right? The idea behind it is, again, I keep saying that, I've said that several times. We are a way for the universe to know itself. We are manifestations of the universal energy in the here and now, in our physical form. And how we choose to utilize that energy depends on us. And it's our choice, right? There's energy of destruction in the nature and in the universe. That's a natural energy. And there's a nature of recreation of life. You know, they're both the same. Two aspects of the same coin. You know, the duality, the aspects of it all. So for us, it's about finding that within ourselves. The first thing is finding that duality within ourselves, balancing those opposing energies within ourselves, and live our lives from that point. And by doing so, you shine light into somebody else's life and somebody else's life. Now, this is where it gets problematic. When it gets really problematic is when and this is inevitable, and this is something that we have to fight constantly, is the comparison game. And we're going to have an episode on comparison in particularly, because our society, again, our modern society, and societies for all that matter, always measure people and compare people. But we do it to an extreme. We do it to an extreme. And it's for, if you look at it, it's just really for the temporary pleasure of being superior to someone, because it's only temporary. You know, it's only temporary that you are that person or the it person. You know, everybody talks about the GOAT, the greatest of all time, you know, and in that domain, in that aspect, in what you did, yes, they were the greatest. But they also only represented an aspect of things, not a whole totality of the universe, you know? So finding your own path and then being able to live from that, and you bring light into the things that you're doing into your environment. And that is the beauty of following your own personal myth, following your own personal legend, and going on your quest.
So then, because you're talking a lot from like the spiritual aspect of this, right? Because there is this sort of, and everybody has it. Some people will say, "Oh, I'm not that." I think everybody has that connection or that intuition. That's what I would call it, is more intuition, which is that spiritual essence that people have, right? Because that's something that comes from somewhere. But what are the practical, because none of this is going to matter if you don't actually apply practical principles to making these things happen. So talk about that.
I mean, like on a practical sense is, let's say you choose a career, right? Let's say you, I can't say, for instance, one of the careers that is pretty interesting to me to see is like engineers are pretty interesting people, right? Because they're concerned about making sure something works and it works efficiently and all the time, right? That's like what an engineer does. They're really formulated on thinking about a process, to creating a process and create something that is efficient, you know? And that right there is in a practical thing, in a practical sense, them utilizing their skills and their inner energy to create something, using the faculties of their minds and exactly what's inside of them, you know? And that's a and attribute it to that, but it's efficient. Their value and what's important to them is that,
Mm-hmm.
So let's think of for a teacher, a teacher, and some of us have been across two types of teachers. The one that are just concerned about going to class, doing the thing, and making sure they do their 30 years or so they could retire, or a teacher that really, really cares about you learning not just the material, but being ready to go out for life.
Mm-hmm.
I remember for me, one of those teachers was Miss Cordone, my English teacher in high school, and the passion that she took to teach us not just the components of literature and the components of a story, but what it really meant and what was the purpose of it, and how did that apply it? How do you apply it into your lives? I remember that we watched Excalibur in one of our classes, and we talked about Percival, who was the one that actually got the Holy Grail.
Wasn't the Excalibur rated R?
No, it wasn't rated R. It showed a booby, but that was pretty much it.
Oh my
that was
God.
pretty much it. Oh, you know who was in that movie that is like, she was hot. She's hot now, and she was in it.
Hotter than?
Helen Mirren. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God, she was in it. She is. That lady. Yeah.
She's aged very well too.
She is. Yeah.
She's pretty.
Sorry, that goes to the animal aspect in me too.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
I have a crush on Helen Mirren, anyways. But
okay. Anyway, yes.
But anyways, but she makes sure that we understood the role of what was the quest for.
Mm-hmm.
The knights couldn't go and they couldn't follow somebody else. They had to go on their own. The struggle to be able to find that,
So, but what are you saying this for? Like, because not everybody has that.
No, that's not true. It's like whatever you choose to do in life. I mean, I talked about an engineer, talked about a teacher. You talk about anything that you decide to do, even if it's not a profession, in the way that you choose to upbring your family, in the way you choose to
That's what I'm saying.
parent.
What other practical ways? Okay.
In the way you choose
It
to
can
parent.
be in anything, really.
In the way you choose, we talked about at the beginning of this episode, talking about the DEI movement, and the way of engaging people in conversation to understand, hey, minorities and people of color have been overlooked throughout history. And that is a fact. They have been suppressed, and this has happened. Yeah. And the other, what can we do and have a conversation that doesn't take away or villainizes the different people because their ancestors did that to others, but then also it's been able to have those conversations, but it also being able to realize that we could have that conversation in a productive way without demonizing others. And also, I'm a minority, and I have been exposed to those type of treatments of being treated like the other and things like that, and it's hurtful. It's very difficult to be looked at as the other. I've seen how people have treated that, and I get it. But I also don't want my chance to hold the whip.
Yeah, I get it.
And I think that's
your choice.
That's my choice. Like, I don't want to hold it. I want to hold you accountable if you continue to act like that.
Right. But you're not trying to do that to other people or impose that on other people.
But what you're seeing with it, and what you're seeing, and these are practical things that people could actually do, is that you have to be able to get to a certain point in which you understand history, you understand what happens, and you understand the human capabilities of hurting others, and you could go and you could defend people and you could do all those things without becoming the oppressor or the one that destroys somebody else too. So these are examples of the things that we could do. So all these things are complex things in the macro level, but in the individual sense, as an individual, you choose, you know that your actions have a ripple effect. So if you decide to be a jerk or a dick to somebody, or you act like a fool in front of people, that has a ripple effect. It might not only be a reflection on you, but it might be a reflection on a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. So behave socially. Take care of your family. Spend time with your family. Do those type of things that are important. And those little things that may seem insignificant, they have a big impact on the totality of it all.
So do you think when people, just to make sure that I'm understanding what you're going at, because you were speaking from the macro level, and you're talking about our actions and our behaviors affect other people, thus that affects our call to the adventure?
Well, that's part of. Well, this now you're in it. Now you're involved.
So making sure that while you're going through it, that your actions and behaviors are not affecting other people in an adverse way.
Yeah, and that's where choices come about. Right. And people will say, well, whatever I do is going to have positive and negative consequences to an extent, but you can minimize the negative effect that we have on other people. And people say, well, just be kind to someone. As you go through all these emotions and all these feelings and all this pain and transformation, you should always keep in mind that other people are going through it too. Mm-hmm. The people are experiencing that too, regardless of race, gender, regardless of whatever perceived separation or physical separation we may have. Somebody else is going through it too. Mm-hmm. And you have to recognize that, because that is if you don't, and you think that you are unique to this experience, then you become the villain.
Gotcha. Okay. So basically, just to summarize this entire episode, the call to adventure is basically that feeling that we have within us that arises, just kind of comes out of nowhere when you least expect it.
It's that death, like just being pulled out of the womb.
And sometimes it's sort of that moment where you have a choice that you need to make, right? Mm-hmm. And those feelings are feelings that we need to confront. We need to embrace them. We need to understand them, sort of just go through the process and not suppress that. And then basically at the end of the day, you go on your quest. At some point you're going to go on your quest or your journey or your adventure, right? We call it the adventure. And what you're speaking of, just to end this whole thing, is that when you go through your adventure is just to be cognizant and aware of our effects on other people and the power that we have over other people in these processes and these times that you're going through.